What's going on, guys? Dom The Commish here, and today we're going to be going through the new NFL mock draft simulator. I guess it's not new. Since the last time I've done this, the Russell Wilson and Stephon Diggs signings have happened, so I think that changes quite a lot, honestly, in this first bit of the draft, seeing as it's two teams picking in the top five. But overall, if you still like doing these mock drafts, please leave a like and subscribe. We just hit 20. Let's try to get to 30 subscribers before the draft. But yeah, we'll get started with this pretty soon. As you can see, I'm a little bit red. It was actually 70 this weekend where I'm at, so it's like it goes from like 30 and completely cloudy and terrible to 70 and absolutely beautiful. But when it gets that hot and sunny, remember to bring sunscreen. I'm telling you guys, like it was rough out there this weekend. So let's get started in the draft. I think the first overall pick doesn't really matter as much. I think Cam Ward goes in here. This is actually going to be the first draft because free agency is done. This is the first draft that I'm going to be doing with trades because there are also like a lot of other trade rumors going on. The Cleveland Browns here at 2 are an interesting team because they have so many needs. Quarterback, Deshaun Watson's going to be out. Don't worry about that. I mean, Jerome Ford, running back, could be a need, but not a big need. Wide receivers, I think they're good on receiving talent. I don't think they have so many other needs. Offensive line, not amazing, especially in the tackle position, but we're in the defense is where it gets a bit worse. Besides Myles Garrett, they have absolutely nobody in the edge presence. JOK is a good linebacker, but they got nobody else. Denzel Ward's a good corner, but absolutely no one else in the safety position. So honestly, and especially because of the cap hit they're going to have, I think that is a very good chance that they can go pretty much anybody here. Or what if they don't? I think that there could be a trade down from the Browns. The issue is that who would they trade up for? I don't think that any team will willingly trade up for Shedeur Sanders, especially not for number 2, maybe at like the number 6 or 7 range, but not at number 2 overall. I don't think they're gonna trade up for him. Abdul Carter could be another guy that the Browns take as well, but I think that I am gonna go with the quarterback, and that being Shedeur Sanders, just because I don't think that the Browns could go into the season starting not even Deshaun Watson, starting Kenny Pickett again. I mean, I've always said that I don't think the Browns should draft another quarterback. The team is just going to get worse and worse and worse around him, but I think they really have no choice. I mean, it's Kenny Pickett or Dorian Thompson-Robinson. If they have that, they might even get the number 1 pick next year, and maybe that's what they want to do. But the issue is that they do not have the cap space to make the number 1 pick worth it next year. So I think that they go out, they draft a quarterback, and they leave the Giants actually in a very interesting position here because quarterback was definitely still on the table for them, even with signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, just to get some more depth in, a young guy who could definitely be the QB2. But if this doesn't happen, I think it goes Travis Hunter here. This is just because, Travis Hunter is the best overall player in this class, I think. I mean, based on like college film, I mean, he won the Heisman. He was an unbelievable player for Colorado, both sides. If he goes to the Giants, though, I do think he plays wide receiver just because I think that he might be able to be a better playmaker on corner, but they did really upgrade the corner position. And I also feel like that there's probably going to be pressure from the league for either the Giants or the Patriots to draft Travis Hunter, just because I think that he'll slot in as a wide receiver rather than a cornerback. Just for wide receivers, they get like a lot more of like the fun praise. Like if Travis Hunter was a corner, there would not be as much hype around him as if he was a wide receiver being drafted at number 3 overall. So overall, I think that Travis Hunter will go to the Giants and be a wide receiver. Do I think that he's amazing at wide receiver? I think he definitely can be. Am I completely sold on him? No, but this is what I think is going to happen. Travis Hunter right here. And that explains what the Patriots are doing at wide receiver, signing Stephon Diggs to such a big deal. It's almost like they were handcuffed in that spot, either to taking Travis Hunter, who they knew wasn't going to fall there, or taking Tetairoa McMillan. So I think this is shaping up for the Patriots to take Abdul Carter at number 4 because Abdul Carter is, once again, besides Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, the talent in this class takes a nosedive off of a cliff. There's still so many good talents, but Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, even more than Cameron Ward and Shedeur Sanders, are the best two players in this class, and it is not even close. Like, I think the third closest player is like you can put is like Genty or even like Mason Graham, Cam Ward, like those guys, maybe even Tyler Warren, on just like a pure player standpoint. And they're still miles behind Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter. So I think that getting those two guys at 3 and 4, you can even see trade downs here. I can see maybe like a team like the Jets or the Panthers could move up in a deal to get Abdul Carter off the Patriots. Because if you look at this Patriots team, and this is the reason I don't think they're going to be going down, you have Milton Williams as like your D lineman. You have Harold Landry and Jack Gibbons and Robert Spillane. Like, Harold Landry's not a great edge rusher. He was bad for the Titans last year. And Abdul Carter kind of fits that scheme of being like that linebacker edge rusher hybrid that everyone wants him to be. Jacksonville Jaguars go with Mason Graham. I have this in pretty much every single one of my drafts. You look at this Jacksonville team. They have Devon Hamilton and Eric Armstead, but I mean, it just makes the most sense. They still could go cornerback here. I feel like it could be Will Johnson or even trading down. You can even make the argument for like another playmaker on offense. Like right now they have Brian Thomas Jr., but if you can even make the argument for Tedero McMillan or even like Ashton Genty. But I think that Mason Graham once again is just best player available at this point, and he'll be a super good person to enter into this Jacksonville defense and become like a really big force on it and make that defense something really scary. So Mason Graham, the best overall player besides Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter, I think you can't pass on him there. Now going to the Las Vegas Raiders at number 6, let's take a look at everyone. Wide receiver core, don't love it. I think they could pick someone up later in the draft because they already have Myers and Bowers. Their running back room is absolutely pitiful. Defense is pretty decent, but that's why, I mean, I just do not think that, especially with all the running backs still in free agency, I don't think the Raiders are going to be looking at this running back room and be like, yeah, this is one that can win us a bunch of games, especially with our new quarterback we played a bunch of money with. So I do think that this is going to be Ashton Genty again. I always have Ashton Genty go to the Raiders in the simulation just because I think that there are teams, I think most teams are just gearing up to take a certain position, especially in the top of the draft. Usually in the top 10, they kind of gear up to take those positions. I think the Giants are gearing up to take Travis Hunter. I think the Patriots are gearing up to take Abdul Carter. The Browns with Shedeur Sanders. The Jags are gearing up to take BPA, which in this point is going to be Mason Graham. And the Raiders are really gearing up to take Ashton Genty. Just, it's like that running back room, you cannot start Raheem Mostert with your new quarterback. And I think that they want a running back. And it could be in the second round, but I mean, when you have Ashton Genty right there, he could easily, they drafted Josh Jacobs early a couple of years ago, and that worked out really well for them. He was a very solid player for them. And I feel like he'll definitely go over Raheem Mostert very easily. Now, the New York Jets are a team that are always garbage, but more than usual in the last while. So, Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. Great core of the three, but everyone else, Allen Lazard, Tyler Johnson, and Jeremy Ruckert, everybody else besides those three, Allen Lazard, Tyler Johnson, Jeremy Ruckert, awful. You might want one other passing weapon. Offensive line, I'm kind of cool with. You could go right tackle here. I could see Will Campbell going. Maybe even Armand Membu. You could definitely use an edge rusher here, and then everything else is pretty good. So, in my mind, it's between a couple players. Will Johnson, Tyler Warren, Tedero McMillan, Armand Membu also could be one, or maybe like an edge rusher. I think I'm gonna go. I love Will Campbell here, but I think that they're just gonna take Tyler Warren because if I look at this team, like Okafor, he can be fine at right tackle. Their defensive ends, Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, those guys are fine. At wide receiver, Allen Lazard, Xavier Gibson, Malachi Corey, those guys are fine. But Jeremy Ruckert, Stone Smart, and Zach Kuntz are barely even tight end 3 level, let alone being a starting tight end option for this team. I think that Tyler Warren is going to be the pick here for the New York Jets. I think they're gearing up to take him, and I think that his film says all that needs to be said. Tyler Warren is the best tight end in this class, and I think they're going to take a shot at him. The Panthers here at number 8. Let's go and take a look at who they have in their depth chart. Where are you? Carolina Panthers. So Bryce Young, Hubbard, they definitely could use a receiver here. I wouldn't take it. I wouldn't take that out of the cards. The tight ends, I know Javion Sanders is probably going to start next year. I do like him as a prospect. Offensive line, they spent a lot on it. I think it's fine. Defense definitely could use a defensive end. They still have Jadeveon Clowney, our secondary. They just got J.C. Horn again. Overall, I think this team is a lot better than people bring it out to be. It still could be a offensive tackle here. I'm going to go Tetairoa McMillan, just because that Carolina Panthers wide receiver room is so devoid of young talent. I know they just drafted Xavier Legette in the first round this year, but that was with pick 32. It was basically a second rounder, and he didn't really do amazing this first year. It didn't prove a lot to me. I think that he shouldn't even have been a first rounder, although he still does have talent. It might need time to just develop. Adam Thielen, really good guy for the number 1. And if you want to develop a young and promising wide receiver, I think you have Adam Thielen as your one. So I'm going to go Tetairoa McMillan, back-to-back skill position players going right here. I think that a lot of teams are starting to realize that the skill positions, if you have a lot of other things, you need at least 2 skill position elite guys. Panthers have 1 maybe in Chuba Hubbard. Raiders have 1 in Brock Bowers. Jets have 2 in Breece and Garrett Wilson, but they also just don't have a tight end. So it just makes sense for that to be that way. New Orleans Saints are up next on the clock. They just signed an offensive tackle. They still have Trevor Penning, but honestly, if Will Campbell falls this far, I do not see the Saints passing on him. I think he's easily the best tackle in this class. People say he's undersized. I don't think that's going to be too much of a problem. They definitely could they could move Fuaga to right tackle. I think that's where he was mostly at Oregon State. I thought he was their right tackle. Maybe he was the left tackle, but Trevor Penning, you have Ryan Ramczyk too. I mean, you have a lot of tackle depth, but these guys are old besides Fuaga. I think Penning, I forget how old Penning is. He's like, what is he? Oh, he's only 25, but overall, once again, this is kind of like a BPA kind of area. I know Saints fans are probably not going to like it, and they're probably going to want maybe even like a quarterback, another receiving talent. But I just think that if Will Campbell falls this far, I think that the Saints are not going to hesitate picking him over anybody else. So, yeah, Will Campbell, offensive tackle at LSU, going to the New Orleans Saints and pairing him up with two first-round tackles in 2 years. And that offensive line is going to be scary for once they actually have the cap room to work on it. I didn't even realize that the Bears signed Devin Duvernay. So, Bears, running back, big need, but it's too early. I definitely think it's too early for Omarion Hampton. They really went crazy on the offensive line. They still could go another guy in this draft. I think it's going to be a defensive end, though. And I think based on scheme, I would love to take Jalen Walker here, but I'm going to go Mykel Williams, just because I think he fits the Bears' scheme a little bit better of a 4-down lineman scheme. I think that him and Jalen Walker are super close in talent-wise. I just think that Mykel Williams fits a little better here than he does than Jalen Walker does. And overall, I think it's a coin toss which one of these guys becomes the better prospect between Mykel Williams and Jalen Walker. San Fran 49ers go offensive lineman Armand Membu. I mean, people have him going in the top 7 or 8. I have him not as high, but they're going to love what they see out of him. You have Trent Williams as your 1 tackle, Membu as your 2nd tackle, because you have no one else on that offensive line besides Trent Williams, who has been in and out the last couple of years, injury-wise, and then Dominic Pooney, who really was a really good pick last year. So put him with another rookie offensive lineman, and I say let's see what this team could do. It's going to be an interesting team. The Dallas Cowboys. They do nothing. Running back, huge issue. Wide receiver, huge issue. Offensive line, pretty much a huge issue. Defense, besides Micah Parsons, not great. I honestly think, what do the Cowboys need the most? That's the real big question. What do they need? Jack Sanborn was on the Bears, wasn't he? Yeah, he's 24. Wasn't he just on the Bears his first 2 seasons? Or am I just going absolutely crazy? 2024 defense. Yeah, he was on the Bears for the last 3 years. Not amazing. I know they think that they just signed a linebacker who's really good, but he's not amazing. So honestly, I see Jihad Campbell going here. Now, once again, Cowboys fans, you guys are not going to like this. You guys are going to be like, what? We need a receiver. We need... The receivers and running backs that are the best are off the board. I could see also offensive line being taken here, but your linebacker core is so absolutely depleted of talent. You could also take Jalen Walker here, but he's more of an edge threat rather than an actual linebacker, and I don't think that you do not have the talent to take another edge rusher to put with Micah Parsons when you have such a weakness at receiver, offensive line depth, wide receiver depth, and linebacker. So I think that, you get a stud linebacker. It's really high for one, but I think he'll be worth it. I love his film. He's out of Alabama, super good. And overall, really happy with having Jihad Campbell, even though Cowboys fans might not like it. Kelvin Banks Jr. is the pick here for the Miami Dolphins. I think that their offensive line has taken a hit in the last couple of years. They did lose, I think it was Robert Hunt, or was Hunt a Dolphin? I think he was. You have Teron Armstead, and you have pretty much no one else. I mean, these guys are all just kind of mid. Kelvin Banks Jr. is a guy who can pretty much play anywhere, any of these 4 positions. He can slot it at right tackle, or he could be anywhere on the interior. I guess he can't really play center as much, but he could be one of your guards, or he could be your right tackle. And I think that's what the Dolphins need on this offensive line, is they need somebody to come in and be a stud on that offensive line. It's going to be tougher for them without a good offensive line, seeing as they lost so many people here. I think he'll play right guard or right tackle, but overall I think Kelvin Banks Jr., still a really, really solid right tackle, has great height and weight for the position. And yeah, on to the Indianapolis Colts, where their number one need is definitely tight end. Drew Ogletree and Will Mallory are just not going to cut it. The receiver core is really mid, but they're all kind of on like the high end of mid. They kind of have, I'd call it 4 wide receiver 2s. Pittman, Pierce, Downs, and Adonai Mitchell, which is good, but it's like none of them are good enough to be starting options. And then on the defense, you're really missing a lot at edge rusher. You have a good linebacker, and you just signed Charvarius Ward to be that stud in that secondary group. So this is going to be Jalen Walker. The reason I say Jalen Walker is I think that he can be, once again, that edge presence. They have Latu. They just signed someone last year, but I don't think they'd be too happy with what Latu does. And they do have Samson Ebukam as well. But I think the biggest thing that they would probably do, they could take a tackle here. I think that they want to get a tight end here, but if Tyler Warren doesn't fall that far, I think their next option is to go with an edge rusher to try and make it even better, that group even better. And so I think it goes Jalen Walker. And if he doesn't work out as being one of your edge rushers, he can also just slot in at linebacker. That's the beauty about having him, is that he can have an unbelievable impact at both linebacker and edge rusher. And so it just depends on where you want to play him, really. I mean, Latu and Ebukam, 2 solid edge rushers, but I think they're going to want more, especially, without their top prospect, Tyler Warren, on the board. I could also see maybe a D tackle here. Atlanta Falcons. So, Atlanta Falcons are always interesting in the draft. I think they're good on skill positions, even though they'll probably draft a skill position player that they don't need. They've done it in the last 3 years. I think maybe even 4. Yes. Oh, yeah, it was literally 4. Penix, Bijan, London, Pitts. And they're still mid on offense. So, let these guys chill out, let these guys develop, you know. And then what do you have here? You're missing an edge rusher, and that's pretty much it. I don't really like any of your edge rushers you have. This would be a great spot for Jalen Walker, too, if he fell that far. I feel like these two could be switched as well, but I'm going to go Shamar Stewart. Once again, Falcons, desperate need of an edge rusher. They're probably not going to draft him just because they like to be annoying. Yeah. What they need to actually be a contending team is a stud edge rusher, someone who can get to the quarterback. Rook Orohoro and David Onyemata are not going to be the guys to do that. Neither Leonard Floyd, Divine Diablo. They're not getting to the quarterback. You need someone who can actually have unbelievable skill. And seeing Shamar Stewart fall this far, when people have him as like a top 12 talent, I think that the Falcons scoop him up here. For the Arizona Cardinals, so they have a great nickel corner in Garrett Williams, but their two outside corners are not amazing. Murphy Bunting and Starling Thomas leave a little bit to be desired. Their wide receiver core as well leaves a little bit to be desired. Their offensive line is not amazing as well, but it's serviceable. But if I'm the Cardinals and I'm at 16 and I see an elite outside corner sitting right here at 16, I'm going to take Will Johnson. I know he's been hurt a lot. I know he's been, struggling a little bit to get all like the pre-draft stuff in. But Will Johnson is he was a top 5 talent before the season. He was a top 5 talent at the end of the season before he started falling because he wasn't able to participate in anything. I think the Cardinals are in desperate need of an outside corner, not as much of a nickelback because they have Garrett Williams. With Budda Baker as well. Pairing Budda Baker with Garrett Williams and Will Johnson, I think, would be an absolute dream. And once again, this is kind of like a BPA kind of scenario. The Cincinnati Bengals have to kind of go BDPA, best defensive player available. So who do they have? Malachi Starks, James Pierce Jr., Derek Harmon, Nick Emenwari, Jahdae Barron. So the real question is what do they value the most on the defense? You could just go best player available, but I think the defensive line is off the table. I think that they have Trey Hendrickson, Logan Wilson, BJ Hill. They just signed BJ Hill to a big deal. I think that they're setting up to take a secondary player in this draft because Geno Stone, Cam Taylor-Britt, Dax Hill, Jalen Davis, not good enough for this team. So the real question is, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Malachi Starks? Is it even going to be Nick Emenwari or Jahdae Barron? It's a good question. And I'll be honest, I don't really know who I think they're going to go with. So, outside corner, he's a bit small for an outside corner, though. I think I'm going to go with Malachi Starks here. I usually go Malachi Starks a little bit higher, but once again, I think he's the best safety in the class, even with the athletic freak that is Nick Emenwari. Malachi Starks is just, one of the more unbelievable players in this class, and the Bengals are desperate for someone in that secondary to make an impact. They don't really have any corners, but you know what? We will cross that bridge when we get to it. We'll probably address the corner position later in the draft for the Cincinnati Bengals, but overall, Malachi Starks right here. The next team we're going to be going and looking at is the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks are a weird team. I absolutely hate what they did in free agency. They downgraded at Darnold and Cooper Kupp. Yes, you saved a little bit of money, but Geno Smith and DK Metcalf are 20 times better than Cooper Kupp and Sam Darnold are. Their offensive line is just kind of mid. Their defensive line is also just kind of mid. Linebackers I'm fine with, and secondary I'm obviously fine with. So I think this could be it could be a wide receiver. It could even be Loveland, maybe James Pierce Jr., but they passed on Jalen Carter a couple years ago because of character concerns. I doubt they're going to do the same thing for James Pierce Jr. They just took a defensive lineman. I don't think they're going to be doing Derek Harmon. I think they're going to go with a deep threat, Matthew Golden. They just signed Cooper Kupp to a big deal, but they can get out of it in the first year. I think getting another young wide receiver, because if Cooper Kupp doesn't pan out, your depth for your wide receiver is Jackson Smith-Njigba, Jake Bobo, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And to top it all off, at tight end, you have Noah Fant. And an always injured Kenneth Walker to a perennial backup Zach Charbonnet. I think that getting another weapon just in case one of those guys goes down. If JSN goes down, your entire offense is completely derailed. Having Matthew Golden as that security blanket and also a guy that you could develop behind a guy like Cooper Kupp, I think will work out perfectly for them. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's see what we got over here. So I think the skill positions are honestly might be one of the best skill position groups in the entire NFL. You have two guys who can be wide receiver ones and one guy who could be a wide receiver two. You have an unbelievable running back one, plus one of the best receiving backs in the league. We don't talk about his rushing. Plus, I think the best third running back in the league. Also, Baker Mayfield, who has really turned his career around. So I think you're good in the offensive line, and I think you're good in the offensive line. This offense is just absolutely clicking. I don't think you're going to want to mess with it too much just because of how much it's been clicking. So I think this is going to be on defense. What's the biggest problem on defense? They just signed Hassan Reddick to be that edge rusher. You could go with a corner. Maybe if you see a nickel corner right here, you have where you're 24, Tyke Smith. You had an okay kind of year. Have you had any interceptions yet? You had 2 interceptions in the regular season this year. Overall, I think that they do go secondary, and I think they do go Jahdae Barron because they could throw him in the slot if needed, but he's primarily an outside corner. So overall, I think that you spruce up your secondary and you kind of move him around to see where he wants to go. And yeah, Jahdae Barron goes here to the Buccaneers, just kind of really getting that defense back up. The Denver Broncos. I do this every single time, and I'm going to keep doing it. Omarion Hampton to the Denver Broncos. I just think it makes sense. I mean, you, once again, kind of like the Las Vegas Raiders, you look at the Denver Broncos running back room, and it is Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime, Tyler Batty, and Blake Watson. This running back room is Tyler Batty. And I think that the fact that they spent so much on every other bit of their team, I don't think they really have a weakness besides this running back position. They had the number 1 defense in the league, and they just made it that much better. And I like their receiver core. Bo Nix is a great quarterback. Their offensive line was one of the best offensive lines in the league last year. Not last week. Maybe last week it would have been. So Omarion Hampton goes number 20. Really like this. The Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that this is all. I've been doing this a lot in a couple of drafts as well. I guess we're not doing trades today, but we'll figure it out. I'm going to go Jackson Dart here. I think that there's definitely rumors that he could go even inside the top 10. If he didn't go in the top 2, maybe the top 5, I think he would go to the Saints. And if he doesn't go to the Saints, I think he goes to the Steelers. I mean, their quarterback room is literally Mason Rudolph and I don't even know who else. It's just that bad. Let's give it a sec. Come on. Yeah, Mason Rudolph and Skylar Thompson. This team is going to be bad. I mean, they'll always find a way to win 9 games, but oh my god, this offense is going to be really bad. But yeah, Jackson Dart, I think, is the best pick for this Steelers team. Even if he doesn't start right away, you can get him in a little bit later. Now, the LA Chargers are an interesting situation. This definitely could be a wide receiver, could be a tight end. I could see Loveland going here. Or it could even be like an edge rusher. I see James Pierce Jr. going here now that Joey Bosa is gone and to the Bills. Now, can I please get some fucking internet around here? That would be amazing. Okay, so edge is an issue. I think tight end is an issue, and wide receiver is an issue. So where do I think they're going to go? James Pierce Jr. So, all right, right here, they got Tuli below 2, and Khalil Mack. Not terrible, but I think they're going to want to maybe upgrade a little bit. They could go with another receiver or tight end. I don't think they will, though. I think they just re-signed Mike Williams. They could go with Colson Loveland, but I'm going to put James Pierce Jr. here. just to get another edge presence. Khalil Mack is not going to be around here forever. I think they're going to draft his replacement. The Green Bay Packers, once again, are kind of an interesting team. They have about 1 million wide receiver twos in Jaden Reed, Romeo Dubes, Christian Watson, and Dontavian Wicks. Offensive line could use some help, maybe an edge rusher. Secondary as well, besides Jair and Xavier McKinney. It's a really interesting. They're in a really interesting spot. I don't really know who to go with here. I feel like it definitely could be a receiver, and I think I'm going to go Luther Burden. I know the Packers don't like to draft their first-round receivers, but it's about time. They need to start drafting one because this wide receiver core is pitiful, and you're wasting the years of Jordan Love's prime. And you're wasting the year of Sean Clifford's prime. Like, the fact that he's just sitting away as the quarterback 3, you guys got to give him a shot. You're going to waste the prime of his career away. Now, the Vikings, this one's pretty simple, I think. Nick Emenwari at 24, I think, is an absolute steal. He's the second best safety in this class, bar Malachi Starks. They need help in the secondary. I know they just signed Harrison Smith to a 1-year deal, but once again, Harrison Smith is definitely not going to be here forever. This is probably even going to be his last year. So get Nick Emenwari, lock down that secondary for a long-ass time. He's an athletic freak, and yeah. Houston Texans, offensive line. That is how they have how many picks? Hold on, let me see how many picks they have. Well, in this draft they have 1, but I think that in the first round it's going to be offensive tackle. In the second round it's going to be offensive guard. In the third round it's going to be offensive tackle again. Then it's going to be another offensive guard. Then it's going to be a center, and then we're going to fill out the entire offensive line with rookies. They need offensive line. That's all I'm going to say. They can't go BPA. They have to go offensive line. The LA Rams' biggest need was linebacker, but we did take Shahad Campbell first. I feel like Carson Swishinger has been really flying up boards. You could also take a corner like Ravel or Trey Amos. What else? You get an edge or a tight end. Nick Scorton, Mike Green. You could take any of those guys here. So the real question is running back. Why do they have running back? Because they have Kyron Williams and Blake Corum. They're not going to take a running back here. I'm going to go with Carson Schwizinger. He's been flying up boards recently. I like him as well. Dynamic linebacker. And I think that linebacker is too much of a need for this LA Rams team to dilly-dally around it in the draft. They have, Jared versus edge rusher, which is good. Omar Spites, Nate Landman, Byron Young's also an edge rusher. I think that you need one dominant linebacker, and because Shahad Campbell went so early, they didn't have a chance to get it. Shahad Campbell's usually my pick to the Rams, but since I put him on the Cowboys in this mock draft, he goes here at 26. Baltimore Ravens don't need a lot, but they do need a guard, which is why I'm going to go Tyler Booker. And, once again, just give another warm body down there to block for Derrick Henry. That's what your offense should be about, is blocking for Derrick Henry. Daniel Falele, not bad. I'd rather have him as 2 and having Tyler Booker than 1. Really, really, really like that. I think this defense is pretty much done. I love this defense. They played well all throughout the year. They could use another receiver. I don't think it's off the table for them to take Egbuka, but I'm going to go with Tyler Booker here. The Lions, they lose Zadarius Smith, and I think they replace him with Nick Scorton. Could also be Mike Green, but I said before I'm not a big Mike Green fan, so I'm going to go with Nick Scorton here first. I think that, once again, really good edge rusher at Texas A&M. If Aiden Hutchinson is struggling after his injury, I feel like Nick Scorton can just come in here and be the other side of that. They lost to Darius Smith back in free agency. He was kind of just like a Band-Aid kind of trade at the end of the year, but overall, I don't mind this year. Nick Scorton's pretty decent. Washington Commanders is interesting. I think this has to be defense. It could be secondary, but I don't like any of the secondary players left enough to take them in the first round. It could be Derek Harmon too. We haven't had too many defensive tackles go yet. We have kind of neglected that. We have a lot of guys get falling here. And I think it's going to be Derek Harmon. Because they did just lose Jonathan Allen. They did sign Jerzen Newton, but I don't think he'll replace him, and he wasn't very good in this first year. I think that you see a guy like Derek Harmon fall this far, you're going to take a guy like Derek Harmon. So, yeah, make him fall right over here. Buffalo Bills, they just got Joey Bosa to come off that edge, which is really, really good for them. They could use another wide receiver once again. Offensive line, they're fine with that. Josh Allen could do his thing. It's a defensive player, and I think it has to be a defensive player to the point where I'm going to go and give them Siobhan Revell just because they need a corner. It could be Hairston as well, but I'm going to go Revell just because I always go Hairston, so I'm going to switch it up a little bit and go Revell. But yeah, this Bills team needs defense, and that's pretty much it. Kansas City Chiefs, I have them taking Emeka Egbuka. They have pretty much the loaded wide receiver room of the century, but I think that they're still going to try and get even better at that position. There's a lot of other things that they could use, but I think, drafting another receiver, they're going to think like, oh, Mahomes needs more people to throw to. I feel like there's also going to be a tight end. You could grab Loveland as well, but I'm going to go with wide receiver. Even though they do have quite a lot of guys in that receiver room. I just think that they're just going to keep going in that way. Could use offensive line as well, but yeah, I think they're not going to draft that here. They could take Grace Abel, but I don't know. Last person I'm going to be taking is for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that is going to be Donovan Eziraku. I think that, once again, just best edge rusher off the board. Eagles desperately need it. They lost so many guys on that defense, and they're going to need to get that up here. So, final thoughts. I made a lot of weird picks in this rebuild. I think that Egbuka to the Chiefs is weird. I think that Carson Schwarzinger going in the first is also a bit weird. Burden to the Packers. Pierce to the Chargers. Will Johnson falling over to the Cardinals is a bit weird. Jalen Walker and Shamar Stewart, I feel like they could even be switched around. Jahad Campbell to the Cowboys. New Orleans Saints. I just think I made a really weird kind of draft here, but I don't want to make the same draft over and over and over again because pretty much I think the biggest thing to note is this top 4 right here and how this affects what I think they're all going to do. I think that this is the top 5, maybe even top 6 that will 100% happen, but barring any trades. I feel like the Browns could trade down maybe a little bit, but overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of video. Once again, please leave a like and subscribe. Let's try and hit 30 before the draft, and I'll see you guys in the next video.